This is the Book Legion Podcast, where we review thought-provoking books to give our Legionnaires the knowledge they need to dominate the next level of their life.
Welcome back to the Book Legion. This is your host, Kevin Diaz. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today to hear about our latest review. Been a little bit MIA, dealing with some personal issues, but it's good to be back for the Book Legion here. And today we're going to be discussing a book in the wellness sector by Max Lugavere. If you're not familiar with Max, he's got a very powerful and beautiful story to tell. He's one of the biggest health and wellness, has one of the biggest health and wellness podcasts in the world, on top of being a filmmaker and author. Obviously, he's written two bestsellers already in the Genius Foods and Genius Kitchen books, and he's appeared on platforms like The Rachel Ray Show. He's been featured on the New York Times, and first time I heard of him was when he went on the Joe Rogan Experience. And if you haven't checked that episode out, I highly recommend it. It's very educational, and you get to hear Max's story from obviously the best source to tell it. It's episode 1870 on the Joe Rogan Experience. And Max's story starts when, moving back home, he started to notice these slight changes with his mother's ability, her mental ability, things that were concerning for someone that was as young as she was at the age of 58 years old. And unfortunately, these conditions worsened, and ultimately it's inspired Max to make really meaningful change in the world through a better understanding of not just diet, but your mindset, your environment at home, your day-to-day, your habits, the ultimate combination of wellness. So I really appreciated him doing this series of genius titles, right? We mentioned the Genius Foods, Genius Kitchen, and the book that we're going to be reviewing today, discussing, is The Genius Life that he wrote. And as always on the Book Legion, we're going to take the book, 3 points that stood out to me. These are just the points that stood out to me. There's so many points on this book that I can't even begin to mention, from having plants in your home to the Tupperware in your kitchen, right, to washing your groceries, right, that I'm not going to cover. But it's all these different areas of life that I honestly felt after reading it that I wanted to throw everything out in my kitchen, in my home, and just start anew. And coincidentally, I'm looking at wrapping up buying a house. So maybe that's exactly the right opportunity to do that. The universe lined it up for me. So just a great book overall. And like I said, we'll start with 3 points. Number one is prioritizing your protein intake, right? We know that protein, essentially, it's the raw building materials for the structure of your bodies and our body's ability to build and maintain muscle. And these benefits are truly, insurmountable the older that you get. It's so important to pair that with a gym routine, in my opinion. And Max goes in and recommends that the recommended amount of protein intake is 0.8 gram per kilogram of your body weight. And for those Americans on there that are listening, right, myself included, that we don't know what a gram is because we don't use the metric system, essentially that equates to 0.36 grams per pound. When you realize, as Max states, that every decade we tend to lose, after 30 years of age, every decade after, we tend to lose 3 to 5% of muscle mass. And these food studies that he cites show that the protein intake is also the most satiating, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, of the macronutrients that are out there, which essentially just means that as you eat these proteins, they're the most filling. So they tell your body, they tell your brain, hey, we're full, we can stop eating. They help tremendously with caloric intake, something that I struggle with. He talks about eating your proteins first in your meals and your lunches and your dinners, instead of the carbs first, instead of the other macronutrients first, because you're actually eating less calories on average, somewhere around 15% less calories when you're eating your protein first. No one is going to overeat on chicken breast. When's the last time that you sat there and ate chicken breast like ice cream? You just kept eating. You're like, oh my God, I I'm so full, I'm busting out of my pants. Like that doesn't happen when you're eating protein. Number 2 point that really kind of blew my mind, but it makes sense given the modern lifestyles that we have, is that 93% of our lives are actually spent indoors. And what that is doing essentially is disrupting our natural circadian rhythm. That's why having a routine is so important, especially at night. The night routine set up your mornings is how I've always looked at it. And, by having a set nighttime routine, don't eat 3 hours before you go to bed is a big one. I've really tried to focus that in the last couple of weeks since I've been reading this book. I usually go to bed around 10:30. So make sure that my dinner, I'm done eating, snack, whatever, by 7:30, I'm done. And if I'm hungry, I'm just chugging a bunch of water and staying hydrated. Afternoon caffeine consumption, that's a really big problem where some of us should not be having caffeine even after noon. If you have a higher metabolism rate, maybe somewhere after around 2:30 or 3, you can get away with it. But really, you want to close up shop as far as consuming large amounts of caffeine at that point, so that your body can start triggering as the sun is setting. Hormones are released in your body to help you see, to help start releasing your natural melatonin, right? Another one that I'm a big fan of, and I'm glad I've been doing this for a long time, is the night shift on your phones. On iPhone, you can have it set up automatically so that the tone of the blue light on the screen is taken away. It's actually a more relaxing look and feel to the eye. I sometimes even turn it on during the day just because I like how it feels. It's less strain on my eyes, especially if you're sitting in your bed with no lights on and the only light is your screen and it's just blaring in your face. It's not good for you as you're winding down your day and going into sleep. And then speaking of the bedroom, is to only have the bedroom be for either intimate acts with your partner, right? Or also just for the main point, which is for sleep. I'm not a big fan of watching TV in my room. I have a TV in my room, but I think that starts to create bad habits, and you're also taking in light. I don't have a blue light deterrent TV, so I know I'm not taking in the best light if I'm watching TV right before I go to bed. Third point are sauna sessions. I love that Max covered this in the book. He cites that our ancient ancestors were exposed to both these extremes of cold and heat, and he dives into cold showers, right, and cold baths, things of that nature. But I love using the sauna when I go to our Lifetime gym here where I live in Houston, and it's a must for me, especially after having a workout. It's a great muscle recovery. It gets my heart rate up one more time before I walk out the gym, and just to be able to kick your body into a high stress level environment is so good for you, to keep those bodily systems intact, because we're not exposed to those things anymore, right? That's not something that we have to go through naturally in our day to day, as we spend, like I said earlier, 93% of our lives are spent indoors. So there's these studies out in Finland, which is considered like the sauna capital of the world. Basically, every home in Finland has a sauna, which is awesome. I'm a little jealous. Might move to Finland. But these studies show that the more you use the sauna per week, the lower risk you have of cardiovascular disease, the lower risk you have of dementia, and just the overall early mortality rates just significantly go down when you start to implement saunas in your week, whether it's one, and obviously you want to go maybe 3 to 4 times a week. You start to see some significant benefits. And maybe it's not tied directly to the sauna itself, but there is clear evidence and no doubt that triggering your body's stress response really has great benefits for long-term health. And that's just your cardiovascular dementia, right? For me personally, it's just good to get in there and clear out the toxins that are in your body. You sweat that out, right? It's a good meditation practice. For you to maybe set your intentions for the day whenever you do it. And because sometimes I just go to Lifetime just to get in the sauna, and if I don't have the hour and a half hour to get a good workout in, maybe I can crank at least a sauna session out. So those are the 3 points that really stood out to me. We're going to put the link for the the Amazon link for the book in the description. Again, this book was The Genius Life by Max Lugavere. Max, thank you so much for writing this. It was a pleasure to read. Looking forward to your next book. And this is Kevin with Book Legion signing off. Until next time, guys, y'all have a blessed day, and we'll see you soon.